Hi everyone. Hello and welcome back to yet another day here at the Connecting Soul Beings Summit. It is my absolute honor and pleasure to introduce you to a friend of mine, Toni Reilly from Melbourne, Australia. Toni is a best-selling author, a past life regression facilitator, and the creator of Soul Life programs and mentoring. Now, this conversation is all about how we go back to our past lives to discover certain elements that may impact the life that we are living today. It has been a really great conversation, and Toni actually takes you through a few of the processes on past life regression, or how she calls it, past life recall, which I actually think is a really appropriate name. So make yourself comfortable, grab yourself a cup of tea or a coffee, and enjoy this wonderful conversation. I haven't had anyone like you on the summit yet.
Oh, really?
We had someone yesterday, Sabrina Piergrossi. She lives in Germany, and she does shamanic healing.
Oh, yeah.
And she's an energy psychologist.
Whoa.
Yes. Very interesting stuff. I was fascinated by that. So we tapped a little bit into the past lives and what we can do when we go back and actually explore that. But because you're an expert in past life regression, which I absolutely love, because I use it myself as well, and I'm sure that the audience will absolutely be fascinated by what you do and how you do it and what the results are from that. But how did you get into it?
Well, actually about 12 years ago now, but when I had a big life change. So I left my marriage is what happened, and went on this soul searching journey to discover how, if I was so intuitive, how come I didn't know? And through that, I was told to meditate. When I found the person to teach me to meditate, she, after a certain amount of time, not very long, she told me to read Many Lives, Many Masters, this book by Brian Weiss. And that was it. I read it and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is what I'm going to be doing. And it was really cool because I had never thought about it before, not past lives. Just, I'm not from a religious family or background. So reincarnation in any form was just never part of my reality or thoughts. And I read that book and I thought, oh my God, it was just all so resonant. So that was it. It was my little affirmation, I suppose, of where to go from here. And it was for the first time in my life where I truly felt compelled to, or that I had purpose. So that's how I got started.
Fantastic. And it's fascinating that a book can actually do that for us, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think that the way that guy wrote that book is, it's so appealing. It's very simply written, and it must be his writing style that just, it's so heartwarming, the way that he writes and, the way he expresses himself. So that maybe that's got something to do with it. I think that book is quite groundbreaking in the regression arena, probably for most people who even ever reach out to have one. They've read that book or someone gave them that book. It's so synchronistic where, it seems to enter people's lives. Yeah.
So how often do you actually go back to past lives? Is it something that, you would suggest we do all the time, or?
Not really. Personally, I did it a lot in the beginning, because the first time that I did it was because I'd read the book and I'm like, oh my God, I have to do this. And in that, that actually was the first time I realized that I was messed up as well, because I had issues, like, I guess, phobic kind of things, but it never occurred to me that they were issues and that you could fix them or anything. They just were there. So anyway, when I went for this regression with the lady that had told me to read that book, she, well, of course, she asked me what I want to address. So I asked for 3 things. One was speaking in front of people.
Mm-hmm.
One was, why don't I know I'm intuitive? And, you know, I'm 35, why don't I know? And the other one was, I went through school and life covering what I was writing.
Oh.
Like really weird. And it would be like this weird thing, like, is someone looking over my shoulder? And really, I couldn't care less if people were copying my work or anything in like to get better results for a cheating thing. I couldn't care about that. So it wasn't about that. It was like this weird, is someone looking over my shoulder? Anyway, in that regression, it addressed them all. And I guess I know now that the way that life proceeded from there, I needed to be clear of those things to do what I ended up doing, which of course is like speaking in front of people. And now it works so well. It's like, we cannot shut that girl up now. Get her off the stage. But anyway, that's a good thing, I guess. So I did it then, and also in my training, which was only a couple of weeks, not even maybe, might have been a week later, that woman was training people, and it's like, what the? Everything just banged into place real quick. So in the training, I also was regressed a few times. And I always used to ask about guilt in that time after I had my first few things addressed, because I had left my marriage and I was so guilt ridden. Lasted for a long time, but that's what I used to ask about. And all sorts of little scenarios would come up. But after that, I didn't really feel the need to do regression. And I think those initial ones were very strong for me and I could see them clearly. But after that, I probably only did them randomly when I started to train other people. And initially, if the numbers were uneven in our group, someone might have to regress me as they're training. And then, of course, I would experience a past life and away we go. But I think that if people are aware of what it can do for them, they can stick on a CD, a facilitator. They can put on a CD and get, or not a CD, who has those anymore? But you know, a guided visualization. I have to send you a CD.
Guilty as charged.
Okay, then we can stick a CD on and be guided into a regression or a recall. So I think the thing is, if people know that they can and they feel drawn to do it, do it. I think you can't do it too much. You can't do it too least. It's just, if you feel it, go for it and do it. I think if there's questions there and there's an answer, then they'll zoom off somewhere and experience a memory again. That ideally, I think, for me, I focused on the therapeutic value of it, but of course people can go there out of curiosity as well. But what I find happens is, even when they go out of curiosity, they actually get something that's really relevant and pertinent to their life now. And they always know, they're like, oh, I understand why I was shown that. I understand how it fits. Or maybe they resonate with the same feeling that they experience. It's the most amazing thing. Yeah.
Oh, I can so relate to that, because I've had my own experiences with that as well, which has been absolutely amazing, and it's helped me, you know, get through certain parts to, you know, where you may feel stuck. Or, you know, one of my most prominent ones was about the fear of heights. You know, I really wanted to figure out why that is. And on occasion it still crops up. And then, you know, I think back to that particular regression and go, okay, that was it. And, you know, it helps me through it to actually still do what I want to do, even though I'm feeling that specific fear come up. And when you have the right people around you, then, you know, you can sort of go through that easier and have a really fun experience. Being afraid of heights is probably one of the most common fears. As well as public speaking. I think that's even number one. But yeah, for me, it's been an amazing journey to be able to tap into that part. And even for the fun part of it, like you said, you know, initially it started out with that, but then it was like, okay, I can actually go back to resolve certain things perhaps.
Yeah.
And that's been really fantastic. I have
I
done it
guess,
under guidance a few times.
yeah.
But yeah, now I can just lay in bed, meditate, and really just ask, can I go back to a specific time where this may have occurred, that question that I have.
That's fantastic. I think that personally for me, it works better if someone's facilitating it. Who knows why? But some people are prolific with a recording, like you, or they can get themselves in there. Amazing. But I guess one of the other things that happens when you start delving there is, aside from fixing fears or phobias or physical things, emotional symptoms, you realize that there's more. There's more. I guess because I was at the very beginning of my spiritual awakening, when I was introduced to the past lives, it was just this affirmation that there was so much more than just this life.
Yes.
And it was just the most beautiful reassurance that I experienced. So I guess there's so many things that can be an outcome of it. I think one other thing that I have to say, I mean, one of the big things that I realized when I came out the first time was that I didn't make it up. A lot of people come out of regression and they're like, did I make that up?
Yeah.
But I didn't come out and think I've made that up. I came out and thought, whoa, there's no way I made that up. It felt so strong and emotional, and nobody from that moment on, I must have got the confidence that I needed to start spruiking it, because I thought there's no one now that can break down with logic, with science, with anything and tell me that that is not real, because it was real. So I thought that was really another huge thing that I got from that first experience.
Yeah. That's interesting that you bring that up. There's quite a lot of, I don't know whether stigma is the word, around what we do, right? Because it's so not tangible. It's not something that we can often see.
Yeah.
It's not something that we can touch and really work with in that sense. However we can.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it's really challenging for some people to understand.
Yeah.
Wow, is that real? You know, when I work with people and teach them about animal communication, that is one of the biggest worries and one of the biggest fears that people have, is that I'm making this up as I go along. And it is not true that I'm actually connecting to my dog or my bird or, you know, my guinea pig. And that's the part that we really work on and work through, to say, well, yeah, you are connecting. However, the human mind comes in and starts to analyze, and then it's like, that's not true. That can't be right.
Yeah.
You know, so I am making it up. But when you start to feel that experience, and like it's almost, you are in that space.
Yeah.
You really are in it. And that's what it really, I even find it really strange to put words around that, right? Because I know so how it feels and how you experience it. Yeah.
It's sort of, it does go surreal in that space. And I think it's because we're no longer dealing with being conscious or here. So you go into that other space. There's no time. There's no linear time there even. No. So even when people are experiencing their regression, they come out and they're like, and you go, oh, look, that was an hour, or that was whatever, 45 minutes. And they're like, what? It feels like 5 minutes.
Yes.
So it's like, you know, even if they're questioning what happened, there's these affirmations that come in. They're like, whoa, 5 minutes is what it feels like. But it's been quite a long time.
Yeah.
So, amazing. It's an amazing experience, extraordinary sometimes, actually. And, the things that come up, my goodness, it's amazing.
So what's the process that people go through when they regress?
When they regress, basically the process is literally guided into relaxation.
Mm-hmm.
Guided into relaxation. Do you know one thing? You actually never tell them to go into a past life. You actually never say, we're going into a past life. But when they come along, their intention is obviously that they are, and off they go. So essentially, relaxation, send them in a certain way where when they land, I take them up into space. When they land, they're somewhere.
Yeah.
They're almost always in a past life when they're coming for regression. So, and then you start from there. So what usually happens is they'll land in a space where the problem that they're addressing is often it's that. So you ground them in there and get them to discern whether they're male or female, you know, what they're wearing, their age. Most importantly is how they're feeling in it. So you discern all those things, get grounded into the recall or the life that they're about to experience. And then from there, usually, but not always, usually we'll go back and find out what happened in the lead up. So I guess the thing with really good facilitation of it is that we ask questions in a way that the client can't refuse to answer, or if the questioning is wrong or you accidentally, I teach them not to do this, but if we accidentally put some of our own thought into it or opinion in it, they correct you. So when I'm training facilitators, we'll be really, really careful, and it's easy to do it, but to make this all about the client's experience and you asking them questions in a way that gets the most compelling result for them. And I think sometimes people will see some things that we might potentially perceive as gory or really emotional. You see and do all sorts of things in them. But there's an element of detachment that comes in. And even for them, they might get really emotional in the moment, but it quickly passes as we discover, I guess, the underlying reason for it.
Yeah.
So the process, relaxation, going all around the lifetime to gather the details that are going to give the person a result, either for what they asked for, or you come to know the things that they're needing to get by what they're saying within the regression, what they're telling us. And then at the end, we always do a bit of a healing to make them, I guess, leveled out. And also it's really important that we find out why. And I think the other reason that it's so compelling and why it works is that I believe that in those states, that altered state, they're actually working with their soul. So even their soul is guiding the whole thing. So even though the facilitator is saying, go here, go there, they're only going where their soul's allowing them to see. And this is why when there's any sort of fear around it, or people are afraid of getting stuck, or, you know, what if something comes up I can't handle, it doesn't happen, because their soul's in charge of the whole thing. So because of that, it's so reassuring. It's reassuring for the facilitators even, that basically they can't really do anything wrong, because if they ask them to go somewhere that person is not to go, they just won't go. It's that simple.
Yeah.
But of course you also get to know if they need a little bit of coercion to go, because they might be avoiding something that is part of what we're trying to fix. But you do also get to know that as a facilitator, where you can push them a little bit, and you don't even push hard. You just turn the languaging into we, so that they feel like you're going with them. And off they go. Of course it's all in here, so they leap off and start telling you, you know, what's happening. So that's sort of a discombobulated on the sounds of that overview of the process.
So is it similar to hypnosis?
Well, hypnosis is actually the same as guided relaxation. it's the same thing. It's just the way that we can get someone in an altered state, get them a bit out of their busy daily mind and into a relaxed state where they can allow these other thoughts and feelings to come in.
Yeah. Wow.
So, look, personally, I always chose not to use hypnosis I always called it guided relaxation or meditation.
Mm-hmm.
But it was only because, particularly in those early days, people thought you were going to turn them into a freaking chicken or something. Because of those, they're fun too. I like them, those hypnosis things on stage. I think they're gorgeous. But it's like people who don't know anything about it, they thought that you were controlling them. So for that very reason, I thought I won't use hypnosis to just not even have to address those questions. But essentially, that it's just that method of getting them relaxed.
Yeah, exactly. And it's wonderful to be in that state as well.
Oh my God, it's bliss, isn't it?
Yes. Just amazing. It's like you forever.
So good. Yeah.
So how can people utilize that particular process of regression and going back and perhaps experiencing certain elements of those lives? How can they utilize that in this life?
I feel like the whole purpose of it, whenever anyone does it, is always for now. It's for this life. So it's never, ever about dwelling on the past. It's not about that at all. We go there to highlight something that helps us understand something for now. So by them delving and going back, somehow it will highlight what they need to know now. And it can be literally that they have a sore back that they're not able to address with Western, whatever, x-rays, medicine, or migraines. Those are physical things. Of course, there's tons more. Or emotional things, like they might come along asking, why do they attract in the same partners? Or, why is their relationship this way? Or, why am I depressed? It could be anything that they come to ask about, and they'll be shown something that addresses it for them. Sometimes it's literal. Like someone might come along with anxiety, for example, and it might be, there's two things. It can be emotional, that it's there for now, or it can be that maybe they were suffocated in a past life, and that's why they have anxiety, or maybe sort of trouble breathing, or whatever it might be. So it can be that the past life addresses this physical aspect, and then it addresses the anxiety. Whereas if it's emotional, then there will be also shown something in the past that either they resonate with now, and it might be that they're not communicating, and that anxiety is telling them, you have to say something. And we as people don't realize that that's what it's doing. It can be just our body talking to us and telling us, you're not being honest with yourself, or it's hard to hear it, but it might be that you need to say this to your partner. And in the regression state, they are shown maybe in a past where they've done the same thing and they needed to communicate, and potentially the outcome of it, those kinds of things. So it's always with a view to be helping them with something now, to make something easier for them now, or altogether clear it. Sometimes it's miraculous, can clear physical or even emotional things for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. I absolutely love this process. It's really amazing.
So cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, Bianca, you go.
Keep going.
I was just thinking about when people have issues with other people in their life, as in, I always pick this as a thing, but maybe they can't get along with their mother-in-law, for example. Their mother-in-law, it might be their sister or friend or whatever, but someone just drives them crazy for some reason. And they can come along into a past life and not even realize they're asking about that person, but recognize them as some player within the recall, within the lifetime that they're recalling. And it makes sense then why that person either annoys them, why they love them so much, why they feel really responsible for them, why they mother their own mother, all of those kinds of things. So they get to understand why they do what they do with people in this life as well.
So what's the biggest learning that you have received?
Me? Oh my goodness. My biggest learning. Oh, look, I guess my personal biggest learning was probably about self-worth. It's been so big for me in my life, and I didn't realize that. I actually didn't realize I had low self-worth. I never knew that because I've always been bubbly and confident, or at least I thought I was. And at the time when I started delving for my guilt, I started to uncover, not just through regression, but through regression, that my self-esteem, or self-worth more so, had been really knocked around in life. And I think that was a big thing that was addressed by recall for me. I guess by seeing myself as a stronger character at times, but also still very kind and sweet. And don't get me wrong, we're not always that way. Pretty kind and sweet now, but I've seen myself do some horrible things. And, you're even looking at it in the regression and it's horrible and you can't avoid it. It's like, oh my God, I'm so horrible. Look what I'm doing. But it still just I think in the end, it made me, okay, it's very cliche, but it made me even less judgmental of anybody, even in life, no matter what they do. I mean, even the worst things that we could probably think of as humans that we deem to be bad things, for me, it's like, there's always a reason. Yeah. There's a reason. There's a depth. And I feel like I always just want to know that. Yeah. So I suppose it also helped me personally, but also within this work, and to be able to really be less judging than most humans are. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I do judge. I do. But as far as why people do what they do, for me, it's like, I never think, oh my God, this is so freaking horrible. I always think, whoa, what happened there? Yes. And you can almost see it. Yeah. Oh, something's happened for them to behave in that way, or to feel that way. So, yeah. So it's really interesting. I don't know if I answered that then.
Yes, I think you did. And it's actually a really good example too, because, I've learned that a lot of people are lower on the self-esteem side, or they may not realize it. And that connection with that past life can be really the breaking point of identifying that, and then knowing what can we do now to actually resolve that as well. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So how can it lift us up when we go back and we may experience that, we've had the most horrible past life, or we've done some horrible things, or things have been done to us that was really horrible. Yeah. When people come out of that, how will it help them to lift them up now to actually be or create what they would like?
What always happens in regression, no matter how hideous it's been, whatever horrible thing happened or amazing thing, they always come out lighter. And I think it's I think it's because there's some clarity that reaches them within that process, where it liberates them of some insecurity or fear that they have now, and they get it. And I think because no facilitator stepped in to tell them what it was, we've discovered it, and they totally resonate with it. So they do come out lighter, no matter what they've seen. And we make sure in the facilitation process that we discover for them the reason behind. We want them to know, you not come out with any questions, ideally, so that they come away feeling lighter. So there's a liberation in it, and I think that's how come a personal liberation that only they can get for themselves, to be honest. You can't give that to them. It's a feeling of releasing some deep fear or insecurity,
Yes.
that brings this lightness.
Yes.
They always come out and say they feel lighter, even if they've been crying all the time and been really emotional. It's like, whoa. So most amazing.
Yeah. Almost sounds like a release of.
It's a release.
Yes.
It's a release.
Yeah.
And I don't think we realize as people until we realize how much we bottle up and push our stuff down. And it's because it starts when we're a little kid, and we're not supposed to be dwelling on it. We're supposed to be pushing it down and uncovering it at whatever stage in our life that we do. But when it comes up, it's like, whoa, who knew that we did this to ourselves in a way? So, and I think that release, as you called it, is just it's just a phenomenal relief. The burden lifts off your shoulders, like, so to speak, and it's like, whoa, I'm so light now.
Exactly. Yeah. Fantastic. So I'm curious, how far back can we go?
Okay. Well, I can tell you how far I've seen someone go. And so I guess caveman is probably the most traditionally human life. I've had like caveman days. But still, can I say, no matter where they go, and they go through all gamuts of time, haven't seen dinosaurs, haven't seen that. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I believe it, but I just haven't had anyone go there. I'd love it. But they go, no matter where they go, whether they're a caveman or it was in the 70s, it's all about the feeling. Yeah. And even as the caveman, it will end up being that caveman or woman feels like they let the family down because the bear got them or they starved or whatever. So there's this responsibility, and it's the same feelings that we have now. So throughout the lifetimes, it's always the same feelings, the same things that emote us: having kids, getting married, losing a partner, having a partner, like lost love, death, all of that. It's always the same thing. Wow. The same things that create our joy and sadness. The other thing that does happen in regression is sometimes people go elsewhere. So Earth isn't the only place that we incarnate on. So it's not somewhere that I guess was a big thing for me, but I've had classes where it must have been for the people in it because the entire thing centers around these other realms. So of course they exist, people go there, but mainly for me, my passion was, and I think that's why most people that came predominantly went into literal past lives as people. But yeah, as far back as I guess that we know humans began.
And this is a question I've been asked many times over, can we reincarnate as animals?
I only can answer this from what I've experienced in this so far, and I have never experienced anyone as an animal. And this is something that could be really interesting because you work so closely with the energy of animals.
Yes.
I've never come across anyone that's incarnated as an animal, so I can't really for sure say if we do or not. But I think that if we do, it's not mixed in with the human experience. Sure. So maybe if we do come as animals sometimes, I've never found it to be mixed in with this human thing. You know what? I've thought a lot about animals because, well, dogs, my heart is just like, oh, they're just so special. But when I look at them, and I don't have one, but my friend's one, I maul him, but my parents have dogs and things like that. But when you look at them, it's like, that dog knows. And you can tell by what they're doing, they're absolutely unconditional. And I look at them and I think they're more advanced than the human spirit, if you ask me, because I mean, we're supposed to be here striving to be unconditional. Personally, I don't believe that is actually our role as humans. I think we're probably supposed to accept that we are not unconditional. We're humans and we judge and we need that. But you look at a dog and it's like, they're unconditional. They love us no matter what. And they respond to our emotions. They know if you need them, you know, need a little cuddle or need some more attention.
Yes.
They know those things. It's so cool. So incarnating as them, I've never dealt with, but certainly, one other thing I have seen is some people do say that they do have pets in other lives sometimes. And they do say sometimes to me, that's their dog now, or that's their maybe cat. Dogs is the thing I probably get the most, but maybe that's because I love them. But
Yeah.
So they come up, but definitely not that I've seen as like a human came back as one.
No, and I've also been asked, you know, when animals are passing over and I assist them with that crossover, people ask me, are they coming back to me? Or are they going to stay up there? Or are they coming back to Earth at some point? I can sometimes sense that they can come back quicker.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't know whether they come back as a dog or as a cat or as a human being even. I do feel, having connected so deeply, that we can reincarnate in an animal form or a human form.
Yeah.
But I have not had anyone tell me, you know, I have been a human or I have been an animal. So,
Bianca, you know what? As we're talking about that, I feel like actually the energy it can do anything. We're here in this human plane at the moment. But the other part of regression, as in, or recall, I've started to call it, is people would, when I first started out, they would always go into past lives. But what ended up happening a few years ago is they wouldn't always go into a past life. They would go into what I call it home. But it's essentially the space where there's nothing. There's nothing, because we're in no bodies. We're not in any other realm where I think it's just all the souls together and where we're all as one. And so that has to be all the souls of dogs and cats and us and aliens and everything. So essentially there's this other space where, and that energy transforms into whatever it needs to be at the time.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
So interesting.
I so believe that. And it's, you know, I'm actually recalling one of the other experiences with a client of mine who was pregnant, had a baby, and right before the baby was born, the soul changed over. And that new soul that was born in that baby's form had left the current life and straight away went into the new body. And that life was not, according to her, not finished yet, and the door was still open to that. So from one moment to the next, she was in an adult human form into a baby form and was born, like in this lifetime. And when I connected with that soul, I was blown away, because she was really upset, couldn't calm her down. The mom was really upset because the baby couldn't calm down. And that's when she said, oh, I know that you talk to animals, but can you talk to babies as well? And I go, well, it's a soul connection, so let's give it a go. But yeah, that was the most amazing experiences I've had, where someone has actually passed away in this lifetime straight away. It was literally dink. And she was so upset because all of a sudden she told me, she goes, I was as an adult doing this, and all of a sudden now I'm like, I can't move. I see my hands and they're all tiny and I can't talk. And where am I? And that was the most amazing thing. Yeah. Wow. So I helped her to close that door, because I said, look, you're in a new body, you're in a new life. And, you know, so guided her through that. But that was the most bizarre, amazing, and wonderful experiences at the same time. So that makes me think that, you know, we can reincarnate so quickly.
If you study that in-between realm where we leave the body and then decide we're coming back to reincarnate, I guess because once we're not in this body, linear time doesn't exist.
No.
So I guess it could be that it appears to us that it went from one body straight into the other, and something's happened in between, even though they've come back real quick. So, but it's really interesting. But it's certainly, they can travel there and find out. People can. If they have questions about it, they can go there. So they can go in between. They can go in between, I perceive to be the space where the soul decides what it's doing next time when it incarnates.
Yes.
Whereas the other realm that I call home, the soul life realm, but it's home, I think that's just everything that's nothing, and it's the most extraordinary feeling of bliss and freedom, and it's just beautiful. People can go there as well, and I do find that they're allowed to visit these days, so I think it's just assurance for us. The veil is thinning and people are allowed to know, and they do seek these answers now. You know, what's the bigger picture? So it must be part of the evolution of humanity as it's happening. So these little, they're not long visits, but they're enough to absolutely assure us that, okay, we're here for a purpose and this is what it is. It might be hard, but it brings great relief to the person to know, okay, this is what I'm doing. Get on with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating with past lives with animals, that they don't have that connection as strongly as we may have. Like we consciously go back and say, okay, well, things are not quite working well now. Yeah. So let's explore and see whether there is some residue from that past life, and just recall that and bring it here to work on. With animals, it's almost, so I'm just tuning in. It's like, this is it, and this is all there is, and that's all that matters. So anything that happens right now, we don't have to go back. We don't have to look forward. Resolve it right now in this moment. Feel into it and see what you can do. Yeah. And animals help us with that process too. Yeah. Like you said, you know, unconditionally with dogs, they know exactly how we feel. They know what's needed for us in that moment. And that's what they do moment to moment. Yeah. Yes, they can remember certain things. Absolutely. And they can also suffer from the feelings and the emotional experiences that we have. Yes. Absolutely. Depending on what they go through. But that unconditional bit for them is also that pure presence. Yes. To do things right now. Yeah. So sometimes that makes me wonder, why do we then always go back? Why do we sometimes dwell longer in that past? You know, why can't we just take that example from animals and say, okay, go back there really quickly, see what's there, resolve it now, and then move on. You know, that's, yeah.
Well, I think that, I mean, this is my theory, but I just feel like the human experience is what we're here doing. We're here experiencing being a human, and with all its flaws, you know, and amazing things that we can do here. I think that's why. And I also, it's so cool to talk about the souls of dogs, because they're not really here having a human experience, though they get this more pure. They're not here learning lessons or having a certain experience. Well, some of them might be if they're mistreated, but that's still, they've come to do that for the human, to learn bloody compassion and empathy, or whatever it might be. So they've come to help them. But yeah, they're already in the moment. They're unconditional. So there's nothing for them to learn. They're supporters. I guess they're supporters. They're coming to help us because we're going through this human experience, and it's hard.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. It is certainly not easy. And But, you know, we're all really strong and we're all able to work around that or work with that or work through it, however you want to call that.
Yeah, yeah.
With all the support that we have around us.
Absolutely.
And I think that's also one of the things that, you know, we can teach people, that it's not just the physical help that we receive. It's not just the physical people around us. We have such a huge network of the non-physical support that we can tap into, because that's also our team that we collaborate with.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Including
The
animals. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I guess if people ultimately realize, and regression can help them with this, is that, you know, they say your answers are all within. I can remember that and thinking, what does that mean? What does that mean? It used to drive me crazy. But once you know what it means, it's like, it's the most liberating thing. And I think that's part of what regression does as well, is it helps you to realize that, it's kind of all about us in a way.
Yeah.
And we're really the only one that can change our fears or our enjoyment of life or our participation in life.
Yeah.
So I think ultimately that's what it gives us: self-awareness, relief, and knowing that we have access to our soul energy and the collective soul energy.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Wonderful.
Yeah. Support.
Wow. Awesome. Exciting stuff.
Yeah.
So what's the one thing that you would like to leave the audience with? Something that they may be able to explore themselves or implement, or anything that you want to?
Okay, I never thought about this, but if I do think about it momentarily, I would say to everybody, please research yourself, research your traits, research your personality, and get okay with who you are, and stop trying to be someone that you're not, because that is where we bring ourselves undone, cause ourselves all sorts of stress and anxiety, even health problems. Get to like yourself, because we actually all got amazing qualities. We have them. If we just work with those and our challenging ones as well, we got to get okay with them, because they're there for us to embrace and learn from. So yeah, I guess my thing is get okay with who you are, because we're all awesome in our own way. Yeah.
Wow.
Self-awareness is my favorite thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Very, very important. Number one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you, Toni.
Thank you for having me. I'm
Wow.
feeling really blessed to be part of your summit.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. Thank you so much.